Okay, so let's get to the engine section. Basically, it's just pixel hunting, okay? Let's start by saying that always look at what values you have in this column, because they can change. So if you want to compare two graphs, like maybe you made a screenshot and want to compare them side by side, always look at these values, because sometimes this graph is auto-adjustable. So if you have higher values, it will automatically just go to the higher scale, so it's gonna be like maybe 700 here. So they will not be comparable unless you transform an image. So it's a bit pain in the butt to do so. So the point of all those upgrades is basically to make sure that all this area here is the highest possible, okay, is the highest possible, and drops as less as you can make it, okay? So this drop should be minimal. You should minimize it. But if your car has a drastic drop, like let's say like this, there's no point in saving this area by skipping on mods that increase your lows and mids. Okay, so if a car like a Mustang has a really balanced build here, it's all good. You can just focus on increasing everything overall. But if your car, let's say, is just a Ford Focus or a Subaru WRX STI, the Impreza, they have a graph that favors lows and mids. So you should focus on lows and mids, and not try to compensate for the torque at higher PMs, because the car will just not use it, and you will lose points by doing so. Let's start with the ECU. ECU is an upgrade that increases your RPM limit, it increases your horsepower, it increases your top speed, but it eats up too much of rating points. So this upgrade is not desirable. I usually put it if I really have the room to do so, but this is not the top priority. On some lower cars, this can be actually useful, like on the Eclipse. I know that in C3, I think, or C2 or C3, it plays a role and you really need it. But on most cars, you can get away by putting like Street ECU, or even stock will do just fine. As you see, this is my go-to build for the Mustang, and I have just stock ECU here, because let's pretend I put racing, okay? I don't gain too much from this, actually. Really, I don't gain too much. I mean, the graph is already dropping, so I'm not gonna get anything out of this. But I'm wasting 17 points with this, where I could just spend more, you know, 17 points on something else, you know, something more useful. Next is the turbo. On naturally aspirated cars, the sport turbo, the first one, adds well, you see 81 points, so it shifts my car directly into the middle of the C6 class. On some cars it can go even up to 100. It also adds a bit of weight. So, and there's currently a bug in the CarX Street, so if you look attentively you will see that it shows that the graph will increase, okay? So that means that these values of torque at high, medium and low should also increase, but they do not increase. This is a bug. This is a bug from the release. So to know that if your car is better with the turbo or without, with the different builds, you really have to just take screenshots and compare them side by side. Not very convenient, but it is what it is. So I do not like to use turbo, especially since, well, for the Mustang it's not necessary, since it's a naturally aspirated car and I have the needed rating anyway. Now the camshafts, okay? Camshafts is the direct upgrade of the torque at high. It eats up considerable amount of points, but it does more so when you have a car that has a really good torque at higher RPMs. Well, the Mustang has enough of it. It's not so big, so naturally, like you see, we lost 21 points by putting right camshafts, but it was worth it. Intake manifold. If you look at the stock values, it favors torque at medium. But it also increases considerably the torque at high. So this is a good balanced build. I already have quite a bit of torque on the low because I have further upgrades I will show you. So This is really a nice thing to balance out. When you put ECU in this area, sometimes the graph will drop. It's gonna be just like this suddenly. This is the intake manifold, and can just straighten it up again, okay, when you adjust it. So Elite, Ultimate, just look at it. This is a good upgrade, and it also reduces the weight. So intake manifold is a good upgrade. Fuel system is also a good upgrade. It's not so noticeable, but it's really it really plays its role. So as you see, it's just an overall booster of everything, and in some builds it allows you to have a really good graph, so don't skip on it. It seems like it's a bit of a useful part, but some builds really benefit from using it, for example, instead of blue camshafts. In this build I'm not using it though, because I compared with and without, and intake and camshafts were a better upgrade. Cylinder head. So this plays a role in how much torque you will have on the mids. Super useful. It also reduces some weight, so naturally I use it. And engine block, same, but for the lows. So on most of my builds I actually start from those values, okay? I put cylinder head, engine block, then I look on intake and fuel system, and only then I look at the camshafts, ECU, and exhaust manifold. But this can be different from car to car. The goal really is just to make different combinations of those parts. So you make, for example, like, let's say you make this combination, then you change the parts just to see how you can fit this rating of 349 for C5, and you just compare the graphs. It's gonna be obvious. It's gonna be obvious what gives what. But most of the builds benefit heavily from cylinder head and engine block on Ultimate. And then you just start adding parts left and right. Exhaust manifold and exhaust, pretty much the same functioning. They are both cool upgrades. Quite universal, so you see they add up universal amount of points overall on the graph, and they also reduce the weight. Another cool thing about all these engine parts is that they reduce the weight of your car in different places. So for example, yes, here we go. So for example, you see with the stock engine block, it shifts a bit of weight on the front, so you have 51 by 49. And when I make an engine block that's slower, I lose the weight on the front of the car. Same for the cylinder head. Should be, but it's not in this car. Same for the intake, but intake doesn't remove too much of the kilograms from the car. Turbo, you see that it adds like 5-7 kilos, and we already gain some weight on the front of the car. Okay, so these parts actually allow you to change the weight balance, and this is very important when you upgrade your engine. Just look at how your balance defined in the body section has changed. Maybe you need to just to work a bit on it to get it to the desired values. Okay, so just pixel hunting, really. Your goal is to have the best values here. The higher they are overall, the better, okay? This is it. And then you adjust the transmission, as I said, on the final drive. The final drive will depend how good your transmission make use of the power produced by the engine.